Today's episode of the Rough Drafts Podcast is brought to you by the newly updated sportsbook at unicorn.com. Unicorn has been a sponsor since the beginning, and this is honestly the best looking and most convenient the site has ever really been. Their new TV guide style layout has made finding and betting a breeze, and with a newly designed and intuitive bet slip, all the information and even access to multi-bets are at your fingertips. I've already gotten started with my LPL and LCK outrights, and even though it's only been a day into the regular season, KT has already let me down, but Unicorn won't. So check out unicorn.com, the world's premier esports betting site.
Hello, Internet. This is Chase RedShirtKing Wassenar, and welcome to week 2 of our NALCS Guess the Lines podcast. 1 week of North American action has come to a close, and as we've kind of gotten used to from North America, lots of exciting back and forth action. Not necessarily the cleanest play, but certainly a lot of bright moments in between there, and probably most surprisingly, a lot of teams that we were not expecting to rise to the occasion really put up some solid performances that are going to have us reevaluate some things. So welcome to Overreaction City as we look at some of the unicorn lines on these things. But before we get to some of those, I got to introduce you to my good friend and co-host, Walter Ceades Fedczuk. Walter, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I am so bloody happy. It is, man, the bottom 3 teams just warm my heart. Just warms my heart. Just absolutely warms my heart seeing those 3 teams on the bottom. Yeah, it was an interesting weekend. It was definitely an interesting weekend for North American League of Legends, to say it bluntly.
Yeah, I think that interesting is a fair way to describe it. But let's start with our up for the week, Walter. What was your favorite thing that you saw from this week's action?
I wouldn't say favorite because they beat TSM, but Immortals looked crisp.
Yeah.
Like, they looked clean. That was, I was not expecting that. I don't think anyone was expecting that. Xmithy looked great, Pobelter looked great, Flame looked fantastic, the bot lane was making plays. It reminds me of spring 2016 CLG. Like, good, like right when they switched over to Hui and Stixay, like they looked really good. It was all about the team play. It wasn't about laning. It wasn't about pushing lanes, winning lanes, anything. It was all about that 10-minute mark. All right, let's unleash ourselves on the map. And other than one kind of really awkward kick from Xmithy in game 1 against TSM that almost lost them the game, I thought Xmithy was the crux of all of that. So I just have to say I was really, really impressed with Immortals. That's about it.
As an Immortals fan, I'm super hyped. Not just because I now have bragging rights over you for the immediate future, because my team beat your team, and that does add a little bit there for me. But I just in general, I really liked seeing the way that they played. I think they have to be my up as well, because I have to just enjoy the resurgence of Pobelter. I mean, this is a guy that you and I thought was maybe over the hill, was maybe a guy who was in the twilight of his career and just didn't have the ability to really bully out enemy laners the way that we'd seen from him in the past. And it turns out that when you don't put pressure on him to win the game in the first 10 minutes, if you allow him to say, hey, look, why don't you farm up and get to that whole part of the game where you get to roam to enemy side lanes and flank around in team fights and really take advantage of the game sense that you're known for, the 200 IQ shockwave meme and everything else. Turns out that works out pretty well for him. The guy, looked like he hadn't missed a step, and it was just so nice to see that. It was so nice to see Cody's son continue his development, and it was so nice to see Flame, with all this attention having to be drawn to the bottom of the map. We got to see some actual nice games from Flame, which I am always happy to see. Of course, not everything was something we were happy to see, Walter. There are downs that we have to look at. What was your biggest down for the week?
So I'm gonna steal a page from Mark Zimmerman, Mark Z, the Delta Fox analyst, the personality. This is the only time I will utter this team's name, and I will spend any amount of my energy on them. Steve Aronset. Team Liquid, you are getting what you deserve, Steve. You have... I feel like I'm saying this every time. I feel so bad for your fans because you just blatantly don't... Either you don't care or you don't know, and that just makes you an idiot. Like, you can't even go a week with the mid laner. And you're like, oh, we have the utmost confidence in Golden Glue. Yeah, we sent him to Korea. He did a great job. You know, you can't even last a week. A week. And you're already pulling the plug on this You're a idiot. Stop making League of Legends changes. Hire someone else. Go hire Reggie for all I care. You're done. You need to stop making personnel decisions because you are fucking stupid. Like, blatantly just dumb. Knock it off. I really hope you get relegated because you, sir, do not deserve to be in the LCS. These players do, but you don't.
Man, that is some genuine hatred right there. And to be honest, I understand where a lot of it's coming from. I think the word that I've used on this podcast is con man. And that's how it feels. It feels like Steve will say whatever it takes to get the best publicity for his team, to get the headline that he wants. And there's no actual substance behind it. You know, when push came to shove, the second that the plan was not working in his eyes, he replaced Golden Glue. And as Mark Z pointed out, and it's something that I agree with quite heavily, I don't think Golden Glue was the problem. I don't think Golden Glue is the reason they lost those games. And I think that, you know, if you really believe that Slushy was going to be an answer, A, what in the world made you think that? And B, how did this not come up when you were making your big press release? You had the opportunity to say, oh yeah, they'll be splitting time and I'm excited for that opportunity. No. You went all in on Golden Glue and then pivoted literally the next day. And at this point, I don't think anyone should believe anything they have to say. I'm not quite as ready to say that Team Liquid does not deserve to be in, because there are good people working for that organization, even if the guy at the top is a terrible dude.
Nope.
At this side of things, and you know, he does good stuff for them in terms of the marketing side of things. I will give him credit for that.
He needs to step completely away from any personnel decisions. His entire thing of, oh, I'm going to be more involved with the team. I'm going to, you know, I was too hands off, yada, yada, yada. Like, that is Exhibit A, nothing changed. Like, you had a full split of seeing that this team didn't work, that this construction of this team didn't work, and you had the balls to come back out to tell your fans, no, everything's okay. Golden Glue went to practice solo queue in Korea. We brought in this other coach. It's going to solve everything. It's going to be great, guys. It's going to be fantastic, hugely successful. And after week 1, you are such a goddamn coward. You can't even stand behind those words anymore. You have to cower and make a roster change after 3 games. Steve Aronset does not deserve to be associated with the LCS anymore. He has proven time and time again that he is a failure. And if we want to joke about the whole curse fourth meme, whatever, this is a consistency. They've never won the big one. No matter what he's done, they've never been a champion. They have one regular season where they were the #1 seed, where it looked like things might be more, might be on the upswing for them, and then it failed. Steve, you suck at owning a League of Legends team. Go do the marketing stuff, but put somebody else in charge of the actual construction of your LCS team and being the front-facing person for your LCS organization, because you, sir, have failed in every single regard when it has come to League of Legends.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at the product that Team Liquid put out there.
Your fans deserve better.
4 terrible games from this team. A team that, did the meta turn in their favor help them out like they promised? No. Did the mid lane switch that they inevitably made, did that help? No. Oh, and by the way, we're not even bringing up the fact that Piglet released, had this interview that was released on Invin, translated into English, where he blames literally everyone but himself. Talks about how, any players don't try as hard, how, no one seems to care as much as he does. He always wins lane, right? And he should be the mid laner. He wanted to play mid lane, but they won't let him play mid lane, which is amazing on so many levels. I think Kelsey Moser described it best when she said, I feel bad for everybody involved, for Piglet because it sucks when you feel you're the only one who cares, and for the rest of his teammates because it sucks when you know he's going to blame everyone but you. And he's not winning his lane every game, and he's not, he's not this guy who's just tearing things apart. The guy was okay in the North American Challenger Series a year ago. This is a disaster. And this is, it's not just that the on Rift product is bad. It's that off the Rift, none of these pieces work anymore. And they're the result of somebody who clung on way too long to something that we knew was a bad idea, because the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Well, congratulations. See if you got a different result. It's getting worse every time.
Steve Aronset is the James Dolan of the LCS.
That
is not a compliment.
You are absolutely
that is
not
not
wrong.
a damn compliment.
Well,
I'm done with
that,
the team that shall never be named again until they actually prove that they can accomplish something on the Rift.
Yeah.
We're giving them the Giants treatment.
We're going to move on from them pretty quickly from this point forward until they do anything that would make us say otherwise, which looks like it's going to be a while. So let's get into some actual matches. Phoenix 1 versus Cloud9. Two teams that we thought were going to be great, that we thought, had a lot of things going their way. And certainly, Cloud9 did take, a map, we can say, against CLG. So it's not like they were entirely blanked. Phoenix 1 took a couple. They extended it to 3 games, so they're not completely out of it. But these teams clearly faltered on a stage in which we expected them to do well. Which team are you more nervous about in the long run?
I think it's Cloud9. I think in all honesty, long term, it's Cloud9 because they showed us what the future is going to look like of Cloud9 and its contracts and its Ray in the top lane. Ray looked pretty abysmal. He had some good moments, but just as a whole, the product as a whole, he looked pretty abysmal. He looked out of place. He looked like his rotations weren't very smooth. His TPs weren't very smooth. His engages weren't very smooth. It did seem kind of disjointed. And maybe they'll figure that stuff out, but it's going to take a while for them. And this is the summer split. This is the split that actually truly matters for going to Worlds, which I think is Cloud9's ultimate goal. It continues to show that there's one real playmaker on this team, and it's Jensen. And I don't think that you can be successful with only one true playmaker. Now, granted, Ray has some moments where all of a sudden he's ulting in as Jarvan. You're like, oh, that's a great play. Smoothie had some great moments as Rakan where you're like, oh, that's a great play. But as a whole, these guys are not up front. I have 10 seconds left on the clock. I need somebody other than LeBron to hit a three-pointer. Who on my team is going to do that? I don't trust any of the other 4 to make a play when it counts. And Freak constantly wanted to berate Jensen about not making a play when it counted in the finals. Even LeBron misses a 3. Typically, Jensen can make a play when he has to make a play. He didn't that one time. Let's get rid of this narrative that this is going to completely define his career, that, he can't get it done because he just didn't hit R. I hate that narrative. It's not his fault they lost. Get over it. It's bad analysis. But that being said, the other 4 players, someone needs to build up that secondary characteristic of, I'm going to be a playmaker. I'm going to be the one that when Jensen's getting double teamed, I could go out there and I could do something to set it up. I can be the one that hits that wide open shot. I can hit that thresh hook. I can, hit this nice flag and drag and just delete the AD carry on the enemy team. That's what I'm looking for Cloud9, and that's been this weakness that I don't think they've had. They're also very, very passive laners. They are so willing to just secede this laning phase, 15 minutes of the game to the other team and say, yeah, go ahead and push us in. We know we're kind of a better team fighting team. We aren't going to be worried about it. And you can't do that against teams that are so good at capitalizing on leads like CLG and like TSM. TSM more in particular when you're against freaking double lift, where that's his calling card is, I'm going to stomp lane. You can't pick constantly losing lanes. I get, you have a counter pick of Echo into Syndra, but you're giving up the first 6 levels of the game. You're telling Bjergsen, for the first 8 to 9 minutes of the game, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to sit here and just try and survive until I get my ult to counteract your ultimate. I really don't like it. It's really, really passive League of Legends. It's not fun to watch. And when you're always playing on the back foot, you're at the mercy of what the other team is doing. Sure, the other team screws up and gives up, a triple kill and double bust to your AD carry in the first 5 minutes of the game. Sure, that puts you in a great position when you're, much more of a passive sit-back type of team. But when that other team is hounding on you, when they're barking at you, when they're coming at you from every single side, eventually you're going to trip. And I think that's what Cloud9 did this week, is that they tripped over themselves.
Yeah, and for the record, the good news for this team is that Impact is going to be back this week, and Impact gives a lot more stability than what Ray had. Honestly, Ray's laning was fine. It was the rest of his play, the flanking of those rotations that you mentioned, and some of that I do have to say might come down to communication issues. Contracts had a couple moments where he engaged with the enemy team and he was going in to make a play, and then suddenly he was on his own and the rest of the team was on the other side of things. There was a fight in Dragon, which I think that was particularly obvious, and you can't really do that. That's not something we're used to from Cloud9. I will say this though, I think to some extent the criticism of Jensen not being able to win the big one, I mean, he's played 4 splits now. 4 splits, 0 championships. With the Cloud9 team that has been in that picture pretty much every time. At some point, that has to matter. At some point, if LeBron James went to the championship 4 times and had 0 victories, we would be criticizing him for that.
The difference is that Jensen is not the best player at his position in the region. I think the team constructed around him is not... Like I said, I don't think it's on Jensen. Jensen's by far the best player on that team and is, if I was picking a guy other than Bjergsen, is the guy that I want as my mid laner. I just don't think the roster as constructed is constructed in a way that wins with Jensen. I just don't think that's the case. They need someone else that could go out and be a playmaker, and I don't see anyone on that team, with the exception of maybe Smoothie.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like Smoothie.
I do like Smoothie too, but again, I see him 50% of the time. I go, yeah, this kid can be a playmaker. I think he could do that and be that guy that they need. And the other 50% of the time, I see him sitting back in lane, letting his AD carry get pushed out of off of Binion ways and going, okay, like I get sometimes you gotta take a step back so you can take 3 steps forward, but like this is ridiculous. Get up there, put some harass, let your AD carry farm. So I just don't think this team. I don't think that this team is a championship contending team or is an international contending team as constructed. I think they're very good. I think if your goal is I want to be a top 3 in North America, this is a very solid team. But I'll continue to reiterate this point. I don't think this team as constructed can take that next step.
And that's something that, I mean, if you watch this week, I mean, I think that echoed through a lot of their play. And like you said, long term, the fact that Ray and contracts in particular looked not very good, I think has to be cause for pause. It don't want to overreact to 1 week of games, but it's a concern. Where do you think the line of this Phoenix 1 Cloud9 series goes?
I have it at Cloud9 minus 155 because traditionally NA is much more volatile when it comes to the books.
Yeah, that's going to be volatile is a great way to describe some of the lines we're going to see. Unfortunately for you, this one was not quite as volatile as you might have imagined. I had Cloud9 minus 200. It was Cloud9 minus 222. I think the casinos are a lot more likely to back Cloud9 right now than a Phoenix 1 team, and we're going to have to get into them later, that was on a losing streak towards the end of the regular season.
What's the underdog line?
And I fell asleep. Phoenix 1 plus 165. It's not no value, but I think there are other places we might be able to find some. Let's go next series, Immortals versus Envious. We already talked about Immortals and how excited we are for that team. Envious actually looked pretty solid. It looks like Pyrian's a real legitimate LCS mid laner. Are you excited about this team? Are you ready to buy in a little bit?
I'm curious. I'm very curious. I'll put it that way. They had some okay competition in Phoenix 1 and Dignitas, both teams that I think were part of that second tier. I want to see them against a TSM or a Cloud9. I like Immortals. Like Immortals is like, yeah, that's great competition. But if you look back to like preseason, like I would clump Phoenix 1, Dignitas, CLG, and Immortals and FlyQuest all in that like sort of second tier, and it's sure, Immortals played well this week, FlyQuest played badly this week, but that doesn't mean I'm fully like, yeah, FlyQuest and Immortals are now in separate tiers. Like, now things are going to start pulling apart in this first couple of weeks. So, yeah, this could be a good showing. This, again, if they play very well against Immortals, I think now Envious moves up into that second tier. Same thing with Echo Fox this week. If they play really well against their opponents, they might move into that second tier discussion instead of being a bottom 3 team that we're not thinking are going to make the playoffs. I'm interested. I'm interested in this team. I did think Pyrian played pretty well. Seraph, though, is still just such a question mark to me. He is the most volatile aspect of that team. And when he is considered their, through the grapevine, he's their shot caller. He's the guy that everything runs through. And he when he's off, the team looks off. So if they could shore up that weakness and they could figure out ways to win without Seraph being, a hard carry or Seraph playing well or whatever, then yeah, I'll be more confident about them. But this team is really just interesting. It's a bunch of cast-off parts. Hakuo, Apollo, Pyrian. Like, Lyra wasn't. Lyra was kind of a stud and then got brought in. But, like, this bottom half of the map are just cast-off parts, and they're performing exceptionally. And it just goes to show, when you pair the right players together, sometimes you can make it work. Sometimes it can be kind of, this quirky little bot lane. I really like Hakuo and Apollo. I really like them as a bot lane. They are fun to watch, and their Rocket and Xayah was quite enjoyable to me. So Envy is definitely on my radar. I feel better about the Envy to make the playoffs outright bet after week 1. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I think that one has a pretty good chance of coming through, and I think you're correct to identify Pyrian as a big reason for that. Obviously, we expected Lyra to be great. I think he played quite well. The fact that he could play Nidalee in this meta is kind of, shout out to him. I love it. It was quite good, and I will always enjoy watching Lyra's Nidalee. But Pyrian was the guy who really was the difference between the Envious team that we saw, take maps, but overall just kind of struggled to come away with the victory, and the Envious team that right now looks like a team that still has to scrape by for those wins, because Seraph, you mentioned volatile, 2.1 KDA after the first week of 53.2% kill participation. Those numbers obviously don't mean that much because it's only 1 week of sample size, but these are by far lower than the rest of his teammates, and I think it's worth noting just how much they've been able to accomplish that he hasn't been able to translate yet when you look just at the numbers, and I think that matches what the eye test is telling us. It's just a matter of now, can they make it last? And I'm excited to see if they do. I think this is going to be a very difficult test for them, though. Where do you put the line, Walter?
I have Immortals at minus 185.
Okay, you get this one. I went too high. I looked at last week's line and I was like, oh yeah, people don't like Envious. This book never likes Envious. We got so much underdog value. There's no way they're going to adjust that much after 1 week. It turns out they adjusted a lot after 1 week. The actual line was Immortals. I said Immortals minus 400. The actual line was Immortals minus 270. So neither one of us were that close, but you are closer. Envious at plus 195. It's an interesting value. I think it's a little bit lower than I would have liked.
It's interesting. We might have a lot of 3-map bets this week.
Yes. And I will happily go back through any of these that you want to go through later doing our value bets. But let's move on. Next series, we're talking about Dignitas versus Team Solo Mid. Walter, are you nervous about TSM?
Nope. It's a marathon, not a sprint. All that matters is that they're there on the championship stage at the end of the year. I thought Immortals played very well. I thought TSM played pretty poorly. That was the Rust game, where it looked like they were trying to mesh everything together. Svenskeren, I saw against Cloud9 Svenskeren of old, not the blindly invading Svenskeren, anything like that. And then the Immortals series, I saw more of that. But I thought Immortals played very intelligently, and it's the old strategy, camp Dyrus. TSM plays through Dyrus. Dyrus is the hidden carry of TSM, and Immortals was like, hey, wait a minute. What if Haunters is really the important part of this team? And when you play Kennen, the entire point of playing Kennen is to dominate the laning phase, to kind of have this early game spike with the flat damage that he has on his spells, and you team fight around dragons level 6, level 7, level 8, level 9. that type of thing. And then you set up split push. Yeah, Immortals was like, what if we just don't let Kennen have that spike in the early game? What if we just outscaled him in 15 minutes and then he's worthless because it's full 80 Kennen with no tank stats. He's jumping in with his ultimate and we just pop him. And that's what they did. That was the old way to beat Dyrus and TSM back in like season 5, early season 4 into season 5. So I thought it was really smart by Immortals, and I don't really like the Kennen pick on Haunter. I just don't. I don't really like Rumble on him either. Like, I like it when he can play more of something that's more bruisery, when he can make the decision between I can go full damage or I can go full tank or I can go some hybrid in the middle, and it gives him more of an option. When you put him on something that's so linear of I'm playing Kennen, I go straight damage, I build Blade of the Ruined King into Frozen Mallet into Runons or whatever, like it doesn't give him the option to go, okay, now they're camping me, I need to switch to something else. Especially when you go 80 Kennen, you can't build Azonias all of a sudden. And like, I mean, you could, but it's just not very cost effective. So I thought that was more about Immortals finding the crack in TSM's armor and exploiting it very well. And yeah, I can't wait to see TSM bounce back.
Yeah, let's be clear. TSM now joins the illustrious group of teams that come back from MSI and struggle in the early season. We saw SKT lost their opening series as well. Yep. So everyone's victim to this. This is what happens when there's this giant mid-season update that occurs while you're practicing on a prior patch because you need to be ready for that tournament. And then everyone else that you're playing against has time to adjust that you just don't. I'm not ready to get worried about TSM. Though I will say, dear Parth, if you're listening, stop this Galio mid nonsense.
Yeah, no. This isn't Parth.
Stop it.
This isn't Parth. This is literally every team in the world. Stop playing Galio. I get the concept. I get what you're doing. But this reminds me of another tank that was in the mid lane. Nautilus. Nautilus was played in the mid lane because you could abuse Banner of Command and Zizirot Portal. You can't do that with Galio, and you're hampering your playmakers by limiting the amount of damage they're doing and making them more of a team fight disruptor instead of I'm just going to pop the AD carry, which is something they're not used to. Please, for the love of God, stop. I don't want to see Faker on Galio mid. I don't want to see Bjergsen on Galio mid. I don't even want to see Nagne on Galio mid. Let's just stop this experiment. It's not working. Leave it to the top laners to build Iceborne Gauntlets and deal more damage than their team in MSI. Hooney. Just stop. Just stop it. Just stop, please. Please.
I'm with you. I like it a lot more in the top lane. And while I understand the value of versatility, there's also value in sticking with what works.
No, if you want something you can flex between multiple lanes, just play Lucian.
Yeah, the fact that Lucian gets flexed to the AD carry spot now has to be one of my
Out
favorite.
Of both solo lanes.
I can't wait for Riot to kill what is currently very fun because it doesn't fit where they think Lucian should be. It's going to be great. Where do you think the line for this series is, Walter?
I have TSM at -250.
Okay, you get this one as well. I was, again, too high. I had TSM at -400 because they were so heavily favored against everybody last week. The answer is TSM -263, which I actually think is a little low. I'm not sure. I'm very scared of Dignitas in this spot. And the 2-0 for TSM here, which I think has significant value, is +125.
What's the Dig Underdog line?
Dig Underdog is +190.
Here's the thing with Dig. I don't trust teams to 2-0 them anymore because they have such high variance on their two carries in Keen and Lod and even Chaser. Like Chaser's more consistent. Chaser's like a very steady plateau. If he's not going to go very high, he's not going to go very low. He's just going to be at this position. But at that position, if your jungler's playing poorly, it like makes Chaser look better. But like Lod and Keen they're the converse of each other, where like when one of them is playing really well, the other's kind of playing awful, and when the other's playing really well, the other's playing awful. And like, man, if they ever sync up, like this team could be really good if both those players ever synced up and played really well at the same time. And it's even like within a 5-minute period, you'll have Keen make like this awesome play, and because Lod got caught out, and then 5 minutes later, it's Keen's the one that's getting caught out, and Lod gets the triple kill. So if they can just like even it out, take the spackle, spread it across the drywall, let it dry, sand it down a little, then they could get like this really nice coat of paint on it. Like that would be a really, really nice feature wall in their living room if those two guys could just get on the same page. Yeah. I really like the team.
There are a lot of pieces that are working together, and we'll maybe talk about them a little bit more later on. Echo Fox versus CLG. I mean, these are two really fun teams right now. Yeah. These are two teams that managed to go.
The best early game team in North America for a year.
How did this happen? Like, how are we at this point with them?
Akaadian. It is Akaadian. I made this comparison to you on Discord last night. This reminds me of late Gambit, of like the last run where they had Alex and Darian and Diamond Prox. Like Looper is just feeding in the top lane. He's feeding and drawing pressure because that's just how Looper's always played. He's a singed player. He's like, yeah, if I can pull 3 people in the top lane, awesome, I'm doing my job. Akaadian is just invading. He's just invading and ganking, and it's not like it's any of this like super convoluted gank pathing. It's not like he's doing anything really strange. He's just brute forcing, being like, I understand the jungle so much that you all think I'm going to do something weird, so I'm going to do the most simple thing I possibly can do, and I'm just going to lane gank. I'm just going to walk in your lane, I'm just going to kill you. Like, I don't know what it is. He just has some innate knowledge of where to be and when to be that I have not seen since Diamond Prox played jungle. Maybe I'm totally just ignoring a whole bunch of Koreans and Chinese junglers. Whatever, I only care about Western League of Legends. That's why I don't care about MSI. That's why I don't really care about Worlds all that much. I care about these 2 regions and the challenger regions, but I just haven't seen someone in North America or Europe that is just that in sync with, I need to be at this point at this moment and I'm going to get a kill. And sure, when you get to team fighting, that sort of kind of goes out the window because it's not just him in the jungle and he's wandering around and there's no vision.
Yeah, I was going to say, I am not sure that analogy holds up.
But I think in the early game, he just has this innate sense of where to be and what to do. And it's hard to teach that. It's really hard to teach a jungler, okay, there's 8 different options. This is the correct one in this specific scenario without them having a ton of experience in those scenarios. So there's something to be said about Akaadian. He's really good. He's really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, he was my pick for Rookie of the Split last split.
Yep.
That was a guy that I really enjoyed. I'm not sure I'm quite ready to say that his pathing is perfect at this point.
I didn't say it was perfect.
You said that there was not another juggler that you thought of that had better decision making in regards to picking the best path.
No. I said he has an innate knowledge of where to be and when to be there.
I think that every once in a while he's in the wrong place. I don't think he's 100% there yet, but I think he's there much more often than not. And I think that what we saw this week were 4 games in which he absolutely was that guy. I'm not ready to say he's going to continue to be that guy because I think there were issues that we saw towards the end of last split. But I do think, this is one of the benefits of playing with a guy like Froggen, this guy who's this long-term savvy veteran of the game who has all this knowledge from all these different metas. If anyone is going to learn, like, hey, look, let's get some jungle mid synergy going. Let's figure out how to best put you around the map so that you can keep that going ahead.
This would be really good analysis if you aren't the one that told me the story about Froggen on whatever team it was and how he's a total nuts.
On Elements. Look.
That's why it's so funny to me is you're like, yeah, Froggen is like this coach. He's going to help everyone out. And I'm just like, you've told me he's not.
But see, this is the thing. I think he's become that guy. I don't think he was when he was on Elements. I think when he was on Elements, he had been given that responsibility with an org that didn't really give him the infrastructure. Like we've seen, how quickly that Elements team fell apart, right? There's a reason that he's in North America in the first place. But I think he learned from that. I think we're seeing a very different kind of atmosphere than the one that he had on Elements. These Echo Fox guys seem to really like him. You go after the game, like they're excited to hang out with him. They all cheer together. This is a team that has fun, especially when they win, but also just in general. This week obviously it's an easy example because they went 4-0. They were the only team to go 4-0. They are currently the only team to not drop a map in the NALCS. Who would have predicted that? I can't imagine.
Whoa. Time out. It was against FlyQuest and Team Liquid. Let's
okay.
Let's pull back on the reins here. Let's hold on a second.
Was a top 4 team in North America last
week. I think FlyQuest is garbage.
I have my concerns about them as well, but I don't want to eliminate the positives of Echo Fox by saying that.
I'm not trying to do that, but I'm also saying the level of competition that they went up against was not it's not like they 2-0'd TSM and Cloud9. This week is the week that we go, okay, Echo Fox, are you contenders or pretenders? Because they could easily go 0-4 this week, and we're like, oh, yeah, okay, week 1 was an aberration, and FlyQuest is bad.
We know how even weeks and odd weeks tend to go for Echo Fox if we go back to last week, right?
It's the even weeks they do well, it's the odd weeks they do poorly. So are we flipping the narrative on this now? It's the odd weeks they can do
technically, good? Week 1 of summer is week 10 of LCS play because there were 9 weeks in spring. Just saying. The flip could be real. Where do you think the line on this is, Walter?
I hate my co-host. I have CLG at -175.
Okay, I get this one. You were too low. I said CLG -250. It's CLG -270. Which I think is fair. That puts Echo Fox at +195. Which is interesting. I'd be more excited about that if I wasn't so excited about CLG, and we'll get to why later on. Immortals versus FlyQuest. You said you think that this FlyQuest team is garbage. Do you want to ruminate on that a little bit more?
So remember on Cloud9 when I was like, yo, you need to have playmakers? You need to have consistent playmakers? There's not even one consistent playmaker on this team. It's like everything that happened in the early part of spring is now dissipated. And like they don't know how to work together as a team anymore. You have 5 guys that are not even top 3 talents at their position in North America, with the exception of maybe Wild Turtle. You could argue him in potentially. They won with Ceades. They won because they had their shot calling god step up and make some big plays, and or have TSM walk into Orianna ultimates time after time after time. This team is bad. This team, if there is no cohesion, there is no synergy between them. That's their big thing. Is we are the ultimate team fighting team. You're losing lane in a period where it's becoming very important that you have pushing lanes and that you have lane dominant players that can make up for deficiencies in having a weaker laning matchup. And I don't think against anyone, I don't think balls against any top laner would be considered a plus in laning against any top laner in the LCS, with the exception of maybe like Looper and Seraph. I think they're all even there. Look at the jungle. Moon had a great breakout split last split, but we've also seen him before, and he wasn't very good previously when he was on Energy. So now, again, we've had 2 variations of him. Does he fall somewhere in the middle? Does he fall somewhere, where does he actually fall now that we've seen 2 splits of him? High is high. He's never been this super lane dominant person. He's always been someone that's willing to give up farm in the lane so we can go out and roam, so we can go out and get warding, so we can do all those things. That's not really good when, all these other mid laners are really, really good, and you need to scale up on some of these carries, and that you need to buy your items. You can't really give up farm when you're playing Orianna and Syndra. You need to hit that 2-3 item spike. And then the bot lane, I'm more willing to sort of give a pass to, just because Wild Turtle and Lemonation have not played together in a very, very long time. They need to get used to each other. I actually think that could be a bright spot on this team. But geez, why are you playing Jhin?
It's a great question.
Good lord, why are you playing Jhin? Turtle was okay at Jhin. He was a pretty good Jhin player, but still, why? Why, when it's lane pushing, do you want to play Jhin?
Especially when you aren't giving your solo laners much damage in your compositions, especially in the early game. I thought it was weird. I thought their drafts were not quite right. And I think you nailed it on the head when you said that synergy is not taking this team any further right now. I think that it gets you to a certain point, but now, we need High to be this playmaker. That's the guy they've constantly relied on. You talk about laning deficiency, negative 19.3 CS differential at 10 minutes right now. That's not obviously a large sample size, so I don't want to overreact, but it is twice as bad as the next worst non-team Liquid mid laner.
To be fair to High, he was playing against the single best laning mid laner in the world outside of Faker in Froggen.
Sure,
so,
and he had a Kassadin game, and Kassadin rarely has, he has a hard time at laning phase. There are a lot of factors to that.
Yes.
But then why are you putting High in that spot?
Yeah.
That's the question here, because if you know that High is going to be your main carry and he's the shot caller and everything runs through him, why are you putting him in that position? If it's either he's somebody that is deficient in the ways that you want him to be, so you feel like you have to put him in those situations, or you've forced him into the spot because you think it's the right way to play, and then you're not adjusting when the evidence is telling you that's not the case. I know I have beaten this horse into the ground, but this is a team that would not have been a semifinals team if it wasn't for one of the silliest engages I have ever seen in a playoff series. And I think right now we're seeing a team that, is that team that we were afraid they were going to be, that they're the team that started out great because the synergy was there, and now that other teams have caught up, is really falling off hard and has just been on this descent ever since. And I'm waiting to see how they're going to turn it around. I want to see what their plan is, because I think it's going to be fascinating
Chase,
to see how Wild Turtle tries to be that guy.
I've been to the future.
Oh.
I was in the future earlier today. I was watching all of these things. That's why I know which lines we want to pick or not. But I keep some of those to myself because, of course, if I'm Biff in this scenario, I want to be the one that has all the money. But that being said, FlyQuest will not figure it out. Not with these 5 players. I think 2 of these players will probably deserve to be on a roster at the end of the split. Maybe 3. But I think they need to change the very top of the map and the very, very bottom of the map if they actually want to be contenders of any sort. Or maybe High's legendary shot calling prowess comes back and they make a crazy run in the gauntlet and they make it to Worlds, and I have to hear about High's amazing shot calling prowess at another World Championship. I have FlyQuest at -125.
Okay. I get this one because you made FlyQuest a favorite, which automatically eliminates you from this. I said Immortals -130 because I thought, that this was going to be very close, because usually the casinos don't like Immortals and they do like FlyQuest. The actual line is Immortals -238. That's FlyQuest at +175. That is a lot higher than I expected. That seems like a very strong reaction to what we saw last week.
It is.
And I'm not saying that it's wrong, but I am saying if we're looking for value, it wasn't that long ago that Immortals was a team that was very up and down and struggling to find consistency. And FlyQuest was a team that did very well against those kind of teams, that really understood how to exploit those kind of inconsistencies. So I'm not saying I want to take FlyQuest here, but I am saying at +175, it's enough that I feel like we'll have to come back to it later on. Let's breeze through this next one. Envious versus Team Liquid. We're not talking about Team Liquid.
Envious -135.
Okay, you get this one.
Hey!
I don't know what I was thinking. I had Team Liquid -150. I thought that they were going to still be harsh on Envious, because they usually are. It's Envious -208. That's Team Liquid at +155.
Damn it!
Yeah.
I wanted better odds than that.
Right?
Come on, Unicorn. You've been very, very nice to the team that I will not mention for a very long time, and now is the moment you're gonna hop off the train. Come on, at least let me make some more money first.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, like, Envious -1.5 at +150 doesn't seem out of play, but do you want to bet on Envious winning a series clean, which I don't remember if they've ever done with this version of the roster.
I don't think they have.
Yeah, I think that's
I
That's
think not.
that would be a concern. I think it's safe to say. Let's keep going. Echo Fox versus Cloud9. We've talked about both these teams. What's the matchup you're going to be watching most closely?
Bot lane, I think Echo Fox needs Keith not to be Keith. I think they need Keith to be random LCS player Y, who is the 9th best AD carry in North America. In North America. Whereas Keith is like, we don't even know if he's a top 16 AD carry in North America because there's a Challenger Series and there's also like random like Serpentis leagues and all these random like collegiate teams. Like Prototype Black is a better AD carry than Keith. So we just need Keith to be the 9th best AD carry in North America. And I think Echo Fox can do well. That being said, I don't think they're good enough to knock off Cloud9. Yeah. Like I said, Echo Fox could easily go 0-4 this week, and next week we're talking about them as our down of the week, so...
Yeah, it's one of those things where I want to believe in Echo Fox. It's a more fun story. I trust Cloud9 to bounce back.
Yes.
I cannot remember the last time we saw 2 bad Cloud9 weeks back-to-back. If ever.
It was probably when it was like Medios and Jensen.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to go back to that team
like
that
spring season
scraped
5?
into the gauntlet by getting 6th.
Summer season 5, yeah.
Yeah, that's the last time that we saw that. I don't expect that team. I think this is a better team than that squad was. Where do you have the line, Walter?
I have Cloud9 at -200.
Okay, I get this one. I said Cloud9 -320. It's Cloud9 -294. That puts Echo Fox at +210. And I know I just made this point about like what are the odds that Cloud9 falters a second week in a row?
No, what's Cloud9 2-0?
Cloud9 2-0. While I'm looking for that, I should point out that, I think Impact is going to make a massive, shall we say, impact.
Impact is not listed as the starter in either game this week.
Yeah, it's almost like LoE Esports never updates their rosters until like the last second.
I'm just saying.
Everything we've heard from Cloud9 says he's going to be back. +115 for the -1.5.
That's not worth it.
Yeah, that's not valid.
That's not worth it. Because Akaadian could have one pop-off Akaadian game, and Froggen could play LeBlanc, and just they 2-man roll this team.
Or Anivia, or any of the other things that he has in his arsenal.
Yeah, sure.
I don't trust the 2-0. Dignitas versus Liquid. Real quick, Dignitas thoughts. How excited are you on a scale of 1 to 10 for this team? Because I feel like, in the hype surrounding CLG doing quite well, Echo Fox pulling off this 2-0, and Immortals, the CLG teal, if you will, that is now being put forth on Reddit, which... I am not sure if Immortals are as happy about that as maybe the fans are. It's certainly getting great publicity now. We'll see how much they want to stick to that identity in the long run. But, Dignitas also went 2-0 last week. Dignitas also had some strong performances, especially with Someday. So what are you hoping to see from them? Why, or even more simply, why is this team not getting the same amount of love that maybe some of the other teams that surprised us this week are?
Because they made the playoffs last split. It's not all that surprising. Their competition wasn't that great. They beat FlyQuest and Envious. Everyone's like, oh yeah, FlyQuest. Like, again, I don't think they're very good. And Envious was the 10th place team last split, and they lost a game to Envious. I think they're just they're sitting there in the middle of the pack, and they haven't done anything to really... to break free from that. It's not like CLG, we're like, yeah, we went out and got Dardoch, and now we're the second best early game team in the LCS because we just added Dardoch. It's not like Xmithy, where it's like, oh yeah, Polebelter played really poorly, and we got rid of Dardoch, and Xmithy played really poorly, and now that Xmithy and Polebelter are back together, they're playing really well. They know each other's tendencies, nothing like that. Like, these are the dark horse guys. These are the legitimate dark horse guys where we're not going to talk about them a lot, where they are going to be overshadowed by CLG and by Immortals. If you were to say the 4 teams that went 2-0, not 4-0, because Echo Fox is not going to go 4-0. If you ask me which of those 4 teams is more likely to continue their undefeated set run, I would put it in this order. I'd say CLG, Immortals, Dignitas, and then Echo Fox. without even thinking about what the matchups are, without even knowing what the matchups are. That's who I'd say. CLG is more likely to go 2-0 this week than Immortals, who are more likely than Dignitas, who are more likely than Echo Fox. And that's fine. I think that works for Dignitas. I think they're okay kind of sitting here, trusting the process, continuing to build these players, continuing to evaluate them. And then we saw it last split. The beginning of the split, they were awful. They were tied for like 9th at one point, and then they made this run at the end of the season. I think that's what they're okay with. They're okay biding their time, and they know that the appropriate time to snap the trap is when they get into the playoffs. That's when you really need to make your run. So I'm super excited for the team because I love the players on this team. I'm an unabashed Keith and Lod fanboy. I literally will just admit that. I love watching those two guys play, and I want to see them be successful, even though Lod was one of the players that kicked Cognitive out of the Challenger Series back in 2013. No, I'm not bitter about that, Lod. I swear I'm not. So personally, I'm like an 8.5 for this team. I just think that we won't talk about them a lot because there are other storylines that are more interesting. And I think Dignitas is okay with that.
I mean, and that's one of those things where, should they be, considered less interesting than some of these other storylines? I'm not sure. I think that Chaser's development has been quite fun to see. I thought he played quite well this week, just in terms of getting, the bottom half of the map going. I thought he, someday looked awesome, as we kind of expect him to do. But it's clear that this team has now realized, like, you cannot single-handedly win a series just with Someday. You need to put resources on the other end as well, and now they have done that, and that's great to see. Overall, I guess I would love to see them start getting more attention, and that's going to have to come from beating one of those great teams that you mentioned. I'm not sure it's going to happen against TSM, just because TSM is, needs that bounce back week, and I don't remember TSM ever having 2 bad weeks in LCS play back to back. It's not something I think that Reggie tolerates. So I think it'll be hard, but beating Liquid is something that they should be able to do quite handily. And if they're 3-1 or 4-2 by the time we're looking at them, still solidly above average when the Rift Rivals event starts, they're going to be in a good spot. They're going to be in the running and in a position where they can make a run that surprises some people. But they got to win this series. Where do you think the line is for this series?
I have Dignitas at -185.
Okay, I get this one. So you're going to have to win the next 2 if you don't want to secede the week over to me. I said Dignitas -250. It's Dignitas -333. The casinos are done. Unicorn is done with Team Liquid. They're out. They're ready to write this team
Unicorn,
off.
I am too, but let me make some money first. That's all I'm asking for. Be a week late to the party, for Christ's sakes.
Oh man, it's great.
What's the underdog line?
The underdog line. Team Liquid +235.
Yeah, no, thank you.
For the Golden Glue revitalized run, when I'm sure, by the way, the underrated part that we didn't even mention at the top of the pod was how much of a confidence hit it has to be for Golden Glue that he keeps getting subbed out when the team has clearly no faith in him. And oh, by the way, we just so happen to have this guy Matt, who's incredibly emotional, who
said I'm not doing this.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry.
I don't want to hear it.
I
dropped so many F-bombs about Steve
I know
Aaron.
you did.
I'm done, dude. It's going to take me 10 minutes to edit.
What's amazing is that, like, I keep coming up with more things that I forgot to mention then. Like, there's just on so many levels. Let's move on. CLG TSM. The storied rivalry.
A Classico.
Not
real El Clasico.
Not quite El Clasico. It needs a name for it. We need to come up with one. Listeners, come up in the comment section. Tell us what we should call this.
Since Hotshot is Canadian and Reggie's from California, Border Wars.
Border Wars.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
kind of bad. I don't like that.
Yeah, we need something. We need a better one. I'm trusting you, YouTube commenters. We'll look through and we'll give you a shout out for whoever picks the best one, if you want to reach us on there or through Twitter. But great storied rivalry. I think that CLG is looking the best that they have since they won Worlds, or not won Worlds, since they won the North American split and got second in MSI. Do we expect that to last here? Are we ready to say that CLG is a team to be to really take in that top tier, or are you wanting to buy a little bit more time?
I think that they have made the case that they deserve to be in the top 3, and I think that also has to do because TSM and Cloud9 kind of tripped up on their shoelaces. That being said, we know Dardoch can have games where he doesn't play well, and CLG really relied on Dardoch playing very well in week 1 and really propping up this early game and being that bridge from the early game into the, all right, now let's team fight. Now let's do this. We saw Darshan play very, very well on tanks. We haven't seen them try to do anything crazy with Darshan going more damage oriented. We did get when the going gets tough, he goes to the Aurelion Soul pick and teams still give it to him, and we're supposed to act shocked when he's good at it. It's like, oh my god, he knows how to play Aurelion Soul. I think, who was it? I want to say, it was one of the NA casters brought up, like, oh, why don't more players play Aurelion Soul? It's like, it's going back in time to when Insec was the only person playing Lee Sin or Diamond Proxy. Like, people didn't play it because it took so much practice time to stay exponentially good at it. It's a type of champion where if you don't practice it consistently, your skill rate decays much, much quicker than an Orianna, than a Syndra, than something that's much more linear, because it's such a unique and different sort of play pattern. So I'm just bemused when people are like, oh my god, who he got to play Aurelion Soul and he was amazing at it. Like, yeah. No way. He's a good Aurelion Soul player. That's like when people are always like, oh, Froggen's signature Anivia. Oh, look at how good he is. He knows how to TP as an egg. Like, yeah, the dude's been playing it since Season 1. No way. He's good at it. So, I mean, it's just so much better for me as a TSM fan when CLG is good. Because the rivalry is better. Like, I joked and I said, oh, yeah, Cloud9 TSM rivalry is more storied, more heralded, because both teams have been better teams for long. But there was that time when CLG was good and Cloud9 was bad, and we got back to this TSM versus CLG rivalry. This is the first rivalry of League of Legends. This is more so. You brought up in your article El Clasico between Peke and Ocelot. This rivalry happened before that. Reginald made TSM because he had verbal disagreements with Hotshot when he was on CLG and Chicks Dig Elo and that entire cacophony of stuff in 2010. He went out, he made his own brand, he named it after himself. Like, this is the quintessential rivalry in League of Legends esports. Quintessential. I place it above the Telecom Wars because it existed first in League of Legends. Telecom Wars has the carryover from Brood War and from StarCraft. I'll give it that. It has its prestige. But in League of Legends, this is the rivalry that defines League of Legends. And when both teams are good, it makes it that much better. And I just can't wait to watch. I think that this is going to be kind of telling for how the first half is going to go for both teams. But I would not be surprised if if these two are the two teams that are facing off against each other in the semifinals or in the finals in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a final series. I mean, this is what if you're looking at the the LCS script, right? If you're the screenwriter here, what you want to see is this CLG team make that one switch and really just be revitalized and have this new energy to them. And TSM stands as the evil empire who's always there. And now CLG, our young heroes, can storm through and really, seize the day. You are the evil empire. You're the New England Patriots of League of Legends. Just embrace it as it is, man. But
I'm just going to hate.
Yeah, absolutely. Haters are going to hate. Call me a hater. I can live with that just fine. It's just one of those things where I'm excited to see how these two teams match head to head, because I think that Dardoch is a guy that has this great early game potential, but often comes at a cost of inconsistency on his end. I think that the rest of the team does a very good job of covering for him against the teams that they played last week, but TSM is a team that can penalize things to a different level. Double Lift is a guy that I love seeing Aframu roam so much and be that playmaker. Double Lift should do a pretty good job of keeping them in lane. He's too good to be kind of bullied out in that way. So, let's get to the line here, man. What do you think this ends up?
I have TSM minus 150.
And with that, I win the week because neither one of us are getting a point. Because the line is I had TSM minus 250. The line is CLG minus 118, TSM at minus 111. So our first smart money bet of the night is TSM minus 111 against CLG. Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, Unicorn.
Am I being punked?
Unicorn. Guys, friends.
Ashton? Ashton? Are you back there? Oh, no, it's just Nick.
It's, yeah. Maybe Nick tried to, got into the Unicorn system, but, like, I don't know, man. Like, I look at this team and I'm just, I'm not sure how in the world we're at this point where it's like, oh yeah, sure. I mean, we did absolutely dump this, we have this team that won the North American Championship in the spring, and they lost a whole one series against a team that might be good. But yeah, sure, let's dump them as underdogs against CLG.
Here's why. This is the casino being smart. 2/3 of the bets are going on CLG. That's why they're the underdogs. They knew everybody, or that's why they're the favorites. They knew everyone was going to want to gamble on CLG.
I mean, I guess.
I got you, Unicorn. I know what you're doing here. This is to make up for completely cutting the legs out from underneath the team whose name I shall not say because their owner is a nonce. And not letting me make money against them. So I appreciate it, Unicorn. I get it. This is the handshake agreement. Now go make money, Walter. I got it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you know what? We'll take that. Last line, real quick. Phoenix One versus FlyQuest. Two teams that want to bounce back. I think it's pretty clear that we have more faith in one of these teams than the other. What do you want to see? 60 seconds for a Phoenix One bounce back.
I just need to see a Nori actually play 2 games without looking like a Diamond 1 player for half of it. I don't know. I don't know what I want to see from Phoenix One, in all honesty. I want to see a jungler who actually cares about playing League of Legends and doesn't look like his head is stuck up his own butt. You're not the best jungler in North America. Let's start acting like it. Let's actually start playing League of Legends the way it's supposed to be. Let's be professional. I'm off the Inori train. I'm off of it, and they have Meteos as their backup jungler. He doesn't want to play professionally, so let me see Mike Young. Let's see how this guy plays. I don't know. I'm done with the junglers on Phoenix One. I'm just done. I'm sick of it, and I'm sick of them. I'm sick of seeing Arrow constantly out of position, but not because he's out of position, but because the rest of his team abandons him. I'm really sick of seeing that. He's your hard carry. Zig, just stay in front of him. I get it. If the call is to run away, I get it. But you should be the last person running away, not your AD carry, so he can get hooked by Thresh, or he can get slowed by a Glitter Lance, or X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
You're the tank. That's your and the support's job is to protect your carries, and you're not doing a very good job of it. So.
Yeah, well, Zig found a way to get quite a few deaths on his own, so I guess we'll see how that goes. I also think, for the record, Shady is not showing me why he was the support they ended up sticking with. That is a concern to me. I think it's safe to call that concerning, especially his laning positioning errors that Arrow tried to make up for and did okay, but it's not the dominant lane that they were when Arrow was at his best and was the NA MVP. Certainly a far cry from that last week. This will be a bounce back week for him if they can take a win here. Where do you think the line is, Walter?
Phoenix One at minus 150. Throw it away.
Okay. I actually get this one here as well. I said Phoenix One minus 165. It's Phoenix One minus 192. So I win the week 6-3.
Wait, what's the FlyQuest odds?
Oh, FlyQuest odds? FlyQuest odds are plus 145. Yeah. Okay. So I'm feeling good, and I'm feeling good about our best bets in general. Last week we went 3-1 in North America. We had Envious at +1 +1.5 against Dignitas and Phoenix 1, both of which obviously came through. We had Echovox +220 over Team Liquid, easiest bet of our lives. Phoenix 1 -1.5 even over Immortals. Ha 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 ha. Let's just not talk about that one. What do we like here, Walter? Obviously, we have TSM -111 over CLG. We need 2 more.
I like 3 map. I mean, what are the odds for 3 maps for Phoenix 1 versus Cloud9 and Immortals versus Envious?
For Phoenix 1 versus Cloud9, the odds for the 3 maps comes to, and I swear I'm not stalling for time. I just have so many things I want to tell you about life, the universe.
Stalling for time.
Yeah. Look, it's one of those things where getting to the bet takes a little bit. For 2.5 maps in Immortals and Envious, it's +110, and for 2.5 maps again, Phoenix 1 Cloud9 is +105.
I think those are pretty safe bets.
I like it more for Immortals and Envious than I do
Okay.
The other one, just because I think that they're always Envious seems to keep it close. They do a really good job of at least keeping 1 map from just about anybody.
Okay.
And I think that that's something they're going to be able to continue to do. We need 1 more. I mean, we could do the +105 if you really like. I kind of like the idea of TSM getting the 2-0 over Dignitas. It feels like...
I think that is so risky.
Okay.
Because you can have a Keen pop-off game, you could have a Lod pop-off game, and you can have a Someday pop-off game. You can have all 3 of those things happen.
Do we like Echofox +210 over Cloud9 as a long shot? Like, Akaadian could bully contracts. And that would mean that, Jensen Froggen should be able to neutralize some of that advantage. Like at +210, that's solid value.
Keith versus Sneaky.
Yeah. I mean, they're underdogs for a reason.
I mean, listen, we're up a bunch of money. Screw it. Let's go for the long shot. Let's go for Echo Fox over Cloud9.
I just think +210 is value there. Echo Fox looks really good right now, especially that jungle advantage. I think.
And I'm just gonna say, when they get absolutely just obliterated by CLG, we're both going to go into that game against Cloud9 and go, why did we say this? Why did we pick this game?
This could go wrong.
It could go very wrong very quickly.
But you know what? I want to believe, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. We had a lot of fun recording it, obviously. We love doing these Guest Lines episodes. We do it every week, Wednesday for Europe, Thursday for North America. So you should hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to this, iTunes, SoundCloud, whatever audio surgeon system you use. I use Overcast for people who want to get a shout out on their mobile devices, and of course you can find us on YouTube as well if you like the video side of things. You can also find us on Twitter. I'm at RedShirtKing. I love talking to you guys. If you have anything you want to say about anything I said on the podcast today, Walter, where can the nice people at home find you?
I'm just going to unveil my new banner picture just for everyone to see at home. It is the last 3 teams in the standings currently as of week 1. Cloud9 at 0-2, FlyQuest at 0-2, and the team that shall not be named at 0-2 as well. So unveiled live on the Rough Drafts podcast, my new cover photo image for Twitter. I think it's amazing. I'm so happy. You guys can find that picture at Ceades_LOL.
Oh, man, I love it. The trash talk is real and absolutely deserved. We will be back next week with our thoughts on what should be a very interesting week, too. I think there are a lot of teams that could separate themselves from the pack, a lot of teams, who could do it in a positive way, and a lot of teams that could really hurt themselves and dig a hole here. So I'm excited to watch these games. And until then, goodbye, Internet.
You can follow the Rough Drafts podcast on all your favorite social media sites. Twitter at Rough Drafts Pod, Facebook.com/Rough Drafts Pod, SoundCloud.com/Esports Rough Drafts, YouTube.com/Rough Drafts Podcast, as well as on iTunes by searching for the Rough Drafts Podcast. The Rough Drafts Podcast is supported by our lovely Patreons at patreon.com/roughdraftspod and by viewers like you. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, Internet.